And now a message from our friends at Fetching Food.
The 1970s and 80s had Elbow, Gravy Train, Purina, Meow Mix, and Bell Bottoms. You've changed your clothes, now change how you feed your pet. Like Bell Bottoms, kick the kibble and join us in the 21st century with the healthiest diet for dogs and cats. Feed naturally, feed raw, feed Fetching Food.
Gobble, 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 gobble.
Let's do the turkey dinner dance. Come on, let's go. Join right in and follow me. You can do it fast or slow. Turkey to the left, cha-cha-cha. Turkey to the right, cha-cha-cha. Turkey up and turkey down. Turkey all around. Suing gravy to the left, cha-cha-cha. Suing gravy to the right, cha-cha-cha. Suing gravy up and down. Suing gravy all around. Mashed potatoes to the left, cha-cha-cha. Mashed potatoes to the right, cha-cha-cha. Mashed potatoes up and down. Mashed potatoes all around. Pumpkin pie to the left, cha-cha-cha. Pumpkin pie to the right, cha-cha-cha. Pumpkin pie up and down. Pumpkin pie all around. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Gobble, 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 gobble.
I got it. Says Glenn Quagmire. But if you squint and imagine it says Peter Griffin, it says Peter Griffin.
Peter, it's Quagmire's. Take it next door.
Now, hold on, Lois. Now, this poses a very difficult ethical dilemma. Do I deliver the package to its rightful owner, or do I open it up and see if it contains He-Mans?
Do not open that box.
You know, Lois, physicists believe there are two alternate universes. One in which I don't open the box, and one in which I do.
Hello, pups and kittens, and welcome to another fun-filled and informative episode of the Groomer Next Door podcast. I'm your host, Chris Green, and joining us this week is Dr. Stephanie Momquest. She has a very unique and very needable delivery service called VetPet Box. As a veterinarian, she's able to decipher everything that is good and bad in our dogs and cats, and putting that all together in a cool little box that you receive every month is very important. I know personally when I have my stuff come in, it is like Christmas every single month. So I get Christmas 12 months out of the year. Or if you may celebrate other holidays, hey, it's that holiday 12 months of the year. Well, before we get into that, let's dive into our fact of the week. So, veterinarian facts. Dogs are the most popular animal to show up on their veterinary exam table, as 46.3 million households in the United States alone have a dog. Almost 80% of practicing veterinarians are female. That is really strange. And yet, I'm actually thinking about it and going, well, we only talk to female veterinarians. We only had one other veterinarian that was a male that I can think of, which was Dr. Bone. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else. Oh no, we've had a few. I'm now going back in my brain, and I'm okay. That makes sense. But predominantly, we do have the female veterinarians on, and sometimes I always say it's because women are a little bit more compassionate than us men, and so they're able to take care of them in a different way. Well, by that sound, Dr. Momquest is about to enter the podcast studio. So with that said, welcome Stephanie Momquest to the podcast.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
All right, this week on the podcast, we have an amazing veterinarian who started a really unique company. Her name is Stephanie Momquest. And I think I got that right because I was thinking about it as I said it. But Stephanie Momquest is with us, and she has a company called VetPet Box. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I was almost kind of going to go Dr. Mom and Dr. M. I didn't know where I was going to go with it. So I just thought, you know what? Let's go with the full name on that one.
You nailed it. It was perfect.
Perfect. That's what always matters. Like I told you, that's the main thing. I got to get that right. That's how I know that the podcast will go off without a hitch. That's the big thing. Well, I always like to know origin stories, and you have two parts. Of course, you're a veterinarian. I always love to find out how somebody gets that bug, and they say, you know what, I'm going to do it because I love animals. And then, of course, you have VetPet Box. So let's start with your origin story, yours, and then we'll get to VetPet Box's origin story.
Okay, so my origin story, let's see. Gosh, how much time do we have? I kind of took a non-traditional route to veterinary medicine. I always wanted to be a vet. Growing up, I was the type that would literally snuck a dog home on the school bus with me because I wanted to help it. And I have all these stories throughout my childhood and growing up. I've always wanted to be a vet. I always liked to help animals. But then once I got into college and I got kind of nervous about all of the advanced sciences and maths and all the years of commitment it was going to take to become a vet. So I actually decided not to become a veterinarian, and I decided instead to pursue a degree in communications and business from UT in Austin here in Texas. And my first career was actually in business and in management, so upper management in some different restaurants and event venues, which was super cool, fun career. I had it was a really fun career. We did a lot of big events and hosted big parties and movie premieres and things like that. So it was a challenging and fun and rewarding job, but it was awfully stressful, a very stressful industry to be in, long hours. And at the end of the day, one day it just kind of hit me that as hard as I was working and as long as hours were and as stressful as it was, when I got home at the end of the day, I wanted it to mean a little bit more than throwing a really good party. Although fun and important, for some people, for me, it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I had an amazing partner who's now my husband, and we kind of had a long conversation one night, and he inspired me to pursue my dream of becoming a veterinarian. And it wasn't a week later that I started researching different prerequisite type programs and things to go back to school. At this point, I was going to have to go back and retake all my prerequisites because my original degree was in business. So as you can imagine, all the chemistries, biologies, all of those things were not current if I'd ever even taken them at all. So it was a good 2 years that I took prerequisites and did lots of volunteer hours and squeezed in animal volunteer hours within 2 years that most veterinary students, they squeeze in those 10, 15 years of preparation for veterinary school, actual preparation. So I squeezed all that in a couple years and decided to really take the big leap. And I moved to College Station, which is where Texas A&amp veterinary college is. So without even being admitted, my husband and I moved to College Station and built a home. And I decided at that point that there was no turning back for me. I was not going to leave College Station until I had that diploma in my hand. And I did. I worked really hard and got into the program and graduated and then we left. We left and moved to Houston. And I've been practicing small animal medicine, which means that my practice is exclusive to dogs and cats. I don't see anything with hooves or feathers or scales because quite honestly, they scare me a little bit. So I practice here in the Houston area on dogs and cats, and yeah, that's my. Did that do it? My veterinary story, how I became a vet.
I'm going to go with this. I'm with you. I can't do any reptile. I'm petrified of them. So I'm with you on that. I will pick up a turtle, but I don't really consider that the same. But snakes, lizards, no. So I stay with the dogs and the cats, even down to the horses and any kind of livestock. I mean, it is complicated. It's a lot more complicated than, and what people don't realize is it's more complicated than a dog and cat. I mean, here you have a cow that has 2 stomachs. I mean, how do you deal with that? That's just crazy in itself.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how different all the species are. And veterinary school, at least here in the U.S., you have to I'm not aware of any programs that let you specialize in just small animals, not yet at least. So throughout the 4 years of veterinary school, we do have to take all of the large animal medicine classes, large animal surgery classes. We even have to do some exotic classes, which was for me quite terrifying. But we have to do that because the board, the NAVLE that we all take at the end of our schooling here in the U.S., we have to pass the boards, and that has questions. I mean, we had to answer advanced questions on, fish, goats, cattle. I mean, every species you can think of pretty much. So it was, pretty nerve wracking, especially to be in the stall with a horse that was colicking. For me, I had minimal experience around a horse, and I thought, man, I'm not. This is not a good place for me. I'm gonna get hurt. So small animals it is for me only. But I love them. And what I love, I think, a lot about practicing with dogs and cats is, along with the dogs and cats, you get the owners, and the owners that see these babies as their fur babies. And I'm not saying that horse owners and some cattle owners don't feel the same about their pets, but a lot of times we, the fancy term, anthropomorphize. We make our animals have, human qualities. We attach human qualities to our fur babies, and mostly dogs and cats. The dogs and cats have a very special part to play in the world today, and they're amazing, and I'm so lucky to be able to treat and help care for these special creatures that people love so much. So it's a really special bond that I get to make with some of my clients, and it's like I'm caring for their children, and I'm very honored to be able to care for those little babies.
And they are children to almost every pet parent. They are. I mean, I have a furless baby, which of course is my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter. And I look at her and I look at the dogs and cats that we've rescued that we stayed with us, and they're just as important. Their food is important, their care is important, the love we give them is important. It's all important. And I think more and more we're seeing that. And even as I do more of these episodes, I find out we're really seeing dogs and cats as more humanized nowadays than even 5 years ago, definitely more than 10 years ago, and so on and so on. And I find that to be quite rewarding to know that people really are starting to care. Now, of course, you're kind of in the middle here. You're still a little bit pushed to the West Coast, so you have a little bit more of the West Coast kind of sense of vibe and everything that production and everything that goes positive with it. In the center where I'm at, still a little bit less. There's still, people still look at dogs and cats as property. They still, and I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying a large amount, where, you go to the east, you go to the west, and they are 100% right in on it. And I always find that to be very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely is.
And you know what? I still do my comic each day. One comes out, and it always has one of my dogs or cats, and they are in a human kind of body frame. So, and I see them that way. I can't imagine them not. Their personalities are so unique and awesome.
Completely agree.
So now you've obviously, in a sense, mastered one hurdle of life, which is becoming a doctor. And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I need a challenge, I guess. I need to try something else now. So origin of VetPet Box was how?
I know, right? My family's like, aren't you just tired? You just became, you became a veterinarian, you got your practice. Now, you just want to do something else completely different now. And so, yeah, and the origin story of VetPet Box, it's just kind of, it still is. It's still making its origin story. I mean, we're a new company, and I feel like because we are such a unique type of product and business, like every few weeks I'm approached with, hey, what do you think? Does VetPet Box fit into this space, or can we, try it for this or that? And I'm constantly finding different ways that I can, different routes that I could take the business. It's just, we're such a small company right now. We're a little bit limited on how many different directions we can go, and our bandwidth isn't super wide, and I still practice. I'm still practicing. I haven't quit practicing to do VetPet Box. I still have, see my clients and do my surgeries, and I'm still practicing veterinarian. So let's see, VetPet Box, the origin. I guess the very first, I don't know if there was an actual aha moment. As much as it was this trend towards, God, there's got to be something better I can do. There's got to be a better way that I can reach my clients. And I tell you, I am the doctor in my practice that goes through the most Post-it notes. You can ask my technicians, because I'm always asking, hey, go give me a Post-it note for this. Go give me a Post-it note for that. And I'm always writing things down for my clients. And I started to think one day, man, I sure am writing the same thing down over and over and over again. And it was the answer to this question. What's the best thing I can get for my pet? What kind of toys do you recommend? What kind of treats do you recommend? What kind of shampoos do you recommend? I know you have the fancy stuff on the shelf that's medicated, but doc, I just need something basic. What can I use for that? What can I use for my ear cleansers? Just different questions that I was getting, and I was fine. I'm writing the same. I recommend this brand of toys or that brand of toys or this brand of treat. I kept writing these things down over and over again. And I guess, I was thinking, how can we make pet care a little bit simpler in this world of, the internet and Google searches to try to find information and advice. I mean, it is overwhelming. It's overwhelming to me, and I'm a veterinarian. And, not just the internet, but going into to any store. So going into, say, a Petco, it is overwhelming. You stand there and you look around, you think, I want to get the best thing for my pet, but my gosh, where do I start? and it is overwhelming. This world that we live in is just, it's overwhelming, the amount of information that's directed at us and the amount of marketing. So I'm very familiar with some of the other subscription models and some of the subscription boxes that are out there. I know people spend a lot of money on pet care and wanting what's best for their pet and trying different things. And some of the best intentioned clients I've had have just, they've gone and gotten just simply the wrong thing and ended up with a toy that they spent way too much on that fell apart. And now I'm seeing their dog on the surgery table for a, $4,000, $5,000 surgery because they just didn't choose a good brand, or they, chose a treat that was hazardous or something that they had no idea, that I've, several different types of treats I see very commonly is, especially around the holidays, as causing problems. And sometimes these owners just don't know. They're just wanting to do the best thing that they can for their pet, and they just simply don't know. And so I kind of adapted the subscription model adopted the subscription model as a way to deliver concise monthly advice on wellness topics that are relevant, that are interesting, that are,
Safe.
hopefully, what's that?
Safe.
Yes, safe, exactly, safe, and based on experience, clinical experience, as well as being a pet owner myself, and it's not just me, it's my team of vets that we've come up with these topics and things that we really want pet owners to know about. It's the topics that if we had 2 hours every 3 months to sit down with every pet owner, these are the type of things we would talk about. These would be the type of things that we would say, hey, guess what? It's, summer's coming up. Do you know what the signs of heat stroke are? This is what they look like. And this is, how to avoid it. And if you see these signs, this is what to do. And, so if we had more time than we have in an exam room, we would, and especially as a baby's growing, puppies grow so fast, but there's no way we can keep up and keep you guys up to speed on all the information we want you to have. So I feel like the VetPet Box structure, the monthly delivery, is a way that I'm able to reach across the threshold into someone's home and say, hey, guess what? It's this time of year. Be thinking about this. Or, oh, guess what we're seeing a lot in the clinics? Hey, have you checked your dog for this or for that, for the other clinical signs or symptoms of these diseases that we're seeing? So it's a way for me to keep owners up to speed on relevant information to help them keep their pets safe and healthier. And they can identify diseases easier. I say, hey, X, Y, and Z is related to this disease. It's my hope that someone will be reading their literature and their in their monthly box and say, oh my gosh, my dog's been doing that. Maybe I should take him into the vet and let him know that I'm seeing this. And they'll get to a diagnosis a lot quicker, a whole lot quicker, if owners are more well, versed and knowledgeable about things to look for at home. So, that's the educational component, and my goal of that in every box is to help, just to help pet owners give their babies, a better life. And along with, obviously, gotta have some fun, right? With every delivery, we not only include the education, but we also include a wellness product. So say that we were talking about ear infections one month, we would include a really high quality cleanser, something that you would find on your veterinarian shelf, not just something that's over the counter and may or may not work. We only include the things that we really, really believe in. So we include, for like ear infections, we'll include a cleanser. For what did we do? For 4th of July, we sent our June boxes out in preparation for 4th of July, and in preparation for anxiety. We sent out some really good herbal anxiety supplements and calming type of pheromone sprays for the kitty cats, and things like that for the animals. So just the owners get to try some different really, really good products for their pet. And that way they can say, hey, no harm. It was pretty cheap. It came in my VetPet box. And if it works, it's gold. They found a really nice, good quality product that they can use, and they can discuss with their veterinarian if they want to use it chronically. And so, that's our way of letting our customers try some really nice, really high quality products that we quite frankly wish that every pet owner had in their home. So, toothbrush, toothpaste, ear cleanser, shampoo, something for anxiety during the storms or during holiday events. And, just every month is different. Every month is unique and useful. That's our goal, at least, to have it be useful. And then, of course, we have toys and treats. So we include toys and treats and all the fun stuff, too. So it's not just education. It's not just, oh, gosh, I got to brush my dog's teeth, or, oh, I've got a mouth rinse they want me to try because I can't brush my dog's teeth. And there's also fun things. So fun, safe toys. And, that being said, there's, of course, no way that can guarantee every toy we send out is safe, but we do test all of our toys with some pretty powerful chewers. And, when we evaluate, did they break, did they not, we get down to the how big of a chunk broke off when it did break. Is it something that would cause a foreign body obstruction, or is it like a grain of rice that'll pass right through? So we evaluate every single thing that we send out and try to do our best, as best as we can, to pick good quality companies that we can represent in our, so that pet owners say, for instance, Star Mark is probably one of my favorite toy brands. So, and people say, I really like this ball that they sent me. They can look online or wherever they go and to shop for toys and say, I really like that Star Mark brand. I want to buy more of those brands because I found out about it in my VetPet box. Our goal is not to make our own toys and have people, buy our own toys. Our purpose is to educate people and say, these are the types of things that are good for your pet and that we found success with and that we believe in. And so that people have just a better educated idea of what to get for their pets when they're shopping for them.
And
all the way around.
Who better to actually be able to share this information but somebody who sees it every day?
Yeah.
So that makes all the sense. I mean, I've seen the other companies and I've seen some of the toys, and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure it's not driven by, well, if you put our product in there, there will be a kickback for you. That's always been my concern. I don't know how much pure idea is put into everything of these boxes. So it does worry me. When I hear a veterinarian's looking into this, I'm not going to be as concerned, because I'm going to go, well,
Right.
you know everything that's supposed to go. You know the recalls. You know the different treats that are bad. You know the ingredients. You have that opportunity to say, okay, well, I can actually be the voice in this box, which initially that's what these boxes are. They're really talkative little boxes of fun. And yet, you can blindly buy something and get a treat that may not be the best for your dog. Could have
Right.
too much sugar, bad proteins. I can go on nutrition forever. I think I even told you this.
Right.
And so that's, that's always the hard part. And I would think that in some sense that would make it a little difficult to select the different things that you would actually put in there, because I imagine you're very selective. Okay,
Oh my gosh,
well,
yes.
this has too much sodium, and this one has, the protein is sketchy. These toys, oh, I don't know, I've heard something about this. So how do you really, cut into it and decide, okay, this is a company that I'm willing to trust, or I have trusted? How do you come to that conclusion?
Well, it's a lot of research, a lot of research, a lot of asking questions, whenever it's a company that I'm not as familiar with. So some companies I'm pretty familiar with, especially the ones that are veterinary owned and operated, that have nutritionists on board when it comes to the treats, at least. I like those companies a lot because I know they're really being critically evaluated from a scientific standpoint as well. So I really like those treats. If I could pick all veterinary companies, I'd probably do that. But, there's just not enough of us out there, and it'd get boring if I did that. So for other newer companies that I'm not as familiar with, I always have them send me their information as far as how where's their product sourced from, how is it stored, what temperature is it stored at, what product, if it's, what kind of packaging, how long is the packaging good for. I really do a lot of investigation as far as quality control for them. And I kind of hold them over the fire a little bit. I think some of the companies I've spoken with, they're not able to, it's funny, the ones that ask a bunch of the questions to, I'll send them an email back and say, I'm really interested in the product. Yeah, but I want to know, X, Y, and Z. And I never hear back from them. I think, well, that's my answer. That's my answer. So, but what I have come across is a lot of these companies that I do work with, they are excited that I'm asking those questions. Because I guess a lot of people don't ask that question. And a lot of them are proud of the quality control that they do in their manufacturing facilities and the research that they've done on their products. And they're very, very proud to have the Made in USA on their label or the grain-free on their label. And, they're really proud of their product. And when they have a vet that's really digging in and asking some of the tougher questions from a nutritional standpoint and from a quality control and, making sure that, there's no contamination and all of those types of things, I think they really appreciate it. The good companies do, at least. So lots of questions, lots of, I'm not a nutritionist. Obviously, I'm not a nutritionist, but I do, frequently defer to some of my nutritionist counterparts for their wisdom as far as if I'm trying to decide between treat A or B and see what they would suggest for us. So as far as the treats go, that's what we do for that. And then for the toys, obviously, toys are tough. I tell you, toys are really tough. And I know that there's a lot of, boxes out there that do, we guarantee no toy will be destroyed. And, I don't think that we can guarantee that. We don't make the toys, but in every dog's chew style, not just their power, it's just not the power of the jaws. It's the way that they chew. Do they chew in a chomping or a sawing motion that, are they in the boredom level of some dogs? I think some of them are just so bored that they sit there and chew and saw on a toy for hours and hours at a time. Well, that's not appropriate, right? It's not an appropriate chew style in the first place. So, it just, it all depends on the dog and what toy is going to be appropriate for them. But what we do look for in our toys is something that if we're sending it out for a powerful chewer, we want to make sure that it's not going to damage the enamel. Because a lot of things, like even tennis balls that are very, very popular, right? You'll never find a tennis ball in a VetPet box because as popular and fun as they are, a lot of these dogs chew, and the felt on the outside of the tennis ball will wear down the enamel. It can abrade the enamel, and it really makes those teeth weak. And if you have a powerful chewer with weak enamel, that just sets them up for dental fractures and other things. So we try and stay away from things that will damage the enamel. We try and stay away from things that break into pieces that could cause serious GI obstructions. We also stay away from things that become really sharp and pointed that can penetrate the palate or the top of the mouth. All the things that we see in the veterinary clinic, we're like, wow, didn't think that could happen. And when we hear about things like that at VetPet Box, we think, okay, we'll make sure we add that to the list of toys that, we make sure this can't happen with our toys. So we do a lot of a lot of research and a lot of reading and a lot of testing on our own pets or we've got a few of some really powerful culture test group dogs that chew really hard on some things. And then we've got, just for interest, we test our toys with other groups as well, just for, hey, did they find it interesting? Was it intriguing? Was it stimulating to the dog? Did they have fun with it? So, I guess there's not a whole bunch of science that goes behind the toy selection, but we just try to do our best to give our customers the toys that we would feel comfortable giving our own pets. I would never put anything in a box that I wouldn't feel comfortable giving to my own dog or cat or any of my friends' pets. So that's what I expect that my customers expect from me, and that's what I give them every month. And it's hard. Toys are expensive, especially the really good ones, and we're a small company, so we don't get a real good discount on them. So it's tough to be able to find the best of the best on the market and to include it. But we do, because we want to give our customers what they should be able to expect to receive from a veterinarian.
It's funny because as you're telling the story behind the deciphering the toys, I've done different kind of little groups where they'll do the conventions with these toy companies, and they always have this wonderful sales pitch. And my stuff doesn't tear, it doesn't break up, dog can chew on it all day, 7 days a week, and that's a lie. I've actually taken some of that actually home. I'm like, I'll buy one of these. And it had, I think, I want to say it had 10 squeakers in it.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. Oh, and the squeaker they'll never be able to puncture the squeaker. Yeah, I gave it to our pit bull, and yeah, she was able to without any doubt, because she gets bored.
Yeah.
And the thing is she did exactly that. She was just gnawing it, and within a very short amount of time, yep. And there it's outside of the packaging, outside of the actual this material, and you're going, if I wasn't around to take this, you probably would have ate it and swallowed
Yeah.
it, and who knows?
Yeah, so that $10 toy turns into a $3,000 surgery. So
Exactly.
yeah. Yep, I'm all too familiar with that scenario, and it's just sad. It really stinks when that happens, because you're just trying to do something fun for your dog, give her something to play with and relieve the boredom, because dogs these days, they stay inside a lot with us, and they get bored sometimes during the day. So providing them with stimulation, environmental enrichment, things like that, that's hard. And you buy what you think could be a good toy, or some marketing person or some company says, oh, my toy's is very safe. That word safe, it's relative, right? Safe,
The
right?
4-letter word when it comes to all of pet products that you really start to worry about is the word safe.
Exactly. I like that. It's now a 4-letter word in my dictionary now too.
Uh-huh. I look at big kibble companies, how they always say that their stuff is safe, and yet it is the lowest grade possible, but it's safe. You look at some of these toys you get at these big pet stores, and they're safe, and yet we all know they're not. But again,
Right.
here's where it comes down to, I would say probably 80% of pet parents, they're not aware of a lot of this stuff. So
No, they're not.
they need this kind of help. And, yes, you're at the market, and I don't think there's a grocery store out there that doesn't have a pet side, aisle that doesn't have some toys.
Sure does.
And you go down there and, okay, I'm picking up, this week's groceries. I'm going to bring home a treat. I'm going to bring home a toy. And then all of a sudden, the sad part is intentions were completely great. And unfortunately, doom and gloom happen. And
Right.
that's why when you're talking about toys, I'm going, oh my God, I totally can, look at all this and go, especially with holidays coming up,
Yep.
all of this massive storm is just right there. And you're going to
It
see it,
is.
and veterinarians from all over the country and even in Canada are going to see so many cases come in of different unfortunate cases of holiday doom and gloom.
Yep. And it's sad, because that's definitely not how anyone wants to spend their holiday, is in the veterinary hospital with a potentially tragic scenario, and every year we see it, and I'm just going to call out one treat just for just because I see it every year, and I know that my fellow vets are seeing it across the country. Those big old the femur bones, those big old bones that dogs chew on, and some dogs do great with them, some dogs do fine, but I tell you, every year there's a lot of them that don't. And what happens with those things is, they can get GI upset from them, obviously from contamination or pancreatitis. They can get all kinds of things from those. But one of the most, I guess, fatal things that we see associated with those is when these dogs chew one end of it, it becomes like a shank, right? Because that's how dogs chew. They put their little paws so cute over one end of it, and then the other end they just gnaw and gnaw and gnaw and gnaw until it's this really sharp point. At that point, if your dogs have those, take them away. Take them away, because the dogs will swallow them, and that will be a shank going down the esophagus and into the stomach. And if it perforates that esophagus, I say there's nothing we can do. Sure, if you get to an emergency vet in time that has the capability to do that type of advanced surgery, sure, they can be saved, but a lot of times it's too late. So that's it's so sad, because usually owners give that particular treat with a big red bow around it, and they're so excited because the dogs love it so much and everyone's so happy. And then that happens, and the look on the face of the client when you make the diagnosis and you talk about the prognosis for recovery and survival and how much it's going to cost for that to even occur, it's just, you just want to cry. You just want to cry with your owners and your clients whenever things like that happen. As a veterinarian, our hands are tied so many times that we think, God, if only I could have been at the store with you when you were picking things out, or if only you could have called me, or if I could have told you not to do this. But we don't have the time and opportunity to talk to every owner about all of these things that we see very commonly. So, and holidays isn't the only, that's when we think about it, is holiday time, new treats and things like that. But it's not just holidays. Sure, we think about Christmas time with new toys, and we think about Easter, and we think about the Easter lilies and being toxic to cats. There's a big push around all those things. But every day of the year, there is the opportunity for a pet to really be injured, and for an owner to not realize, oh my gosh, this could happen if they do this. And so that's, again, what VetPet Box is trying to do, is trying to just make more informed owners. One of my favorite boxes that we've done, and we'll probably repeat it again at some point next year, is the topic of, is this an emergency? And it's one of those things that, we did a cat version for the cats, obviously, and a dog version for the dogs, like we do every month. But we go over really things that most pet owners, some pet owners, sure, some do their research and they know a lot of clinical symptoms, or they've been pet owners for a long time and they know, they've had certain things happen with their previous pets. They've had a lot of experience, but most pet owners don't know that your dog eats something toxic. Guess what? We have about 4 hours to intervene. That's it. After 4 hours, it's passed into the stomach, and from the stomach into the intestine. You can't make a dog vomit. Anything after about 4 hours. We have a window of time. So if you see something, you see your dog ingest something you know it shouldn't have ingested, bring it to the vet then. Don't say, I'll do it when I get off work, because that's what, just the other day I had a dog that ate sago palm, right? Super highly toxic plant. And the owner saw it happen and thought, I'm going to bring him to the vet whenever I go in, whenever I get home from work. Well, by that time, everything's been absorbed into the bloodstream. By that time, the dog's not acting sick yet, but everything's been absorbed. I can't do anything but treat clinical symptoms at that point. So, to be able to tell owners things like that, like, what kind of window of time we're working with with an ingestion, or what it looks like when a cat's blocked, which is that's a fatal scenario for a male cat. So what are the clinical symptoms, and what do you do? Same thing for a dog that goes down, that has like a disc injury. What does that look like? And why is time of the essence? Well, because we have 24 hours to get them into surgery. They may never regain function of their limbs again. So things like that, obviously you can tell I'm so excited about talking about these things. We just really love to educate our owners on the things that could really make a difference. And we have customers writing us saying, oh my gosh, we learned this in the box, and guess what we got to do because of it? Thank you so much. You really helped make a difference. And so, to me, I love the toy and treat aspect of it. It's fun because I don't know how excited people would get about getting the box every month if the toys and treats weren't there. I know there's a market for it, so we do the toys and treats. But for me, my passion is with education and with the wellness products that really helped to make a difference.
And it's funny because it's the science that you're attracted to, because I completely get it. Everybody that I've ever talked to that loves science, it's that. That's exactly what we're drawn to, and just the fact that there is a duration and there is a need. And if you don't do it by this time, there is no XYZ. And so I
Exactly.
get it. I completely get it. And I think a lot of people understand it, especially people who listen and go, I don't understand the science aspects behind it, but the passion of wanting to know it, that's right there. That's on display. And I completely understand. I I can imagine where a pet parent would think, well, you can just induce vomiting. That's all that needs to happen. Well, clearly, if it's in the bloodstream, there's nothing you can do. If it's already passed through and there's just no way, there is no way. That's
Right.
the thing.
Or if it's something that's caustic, right? So some
Right.
things that a dog would, or even a cat, I guess, would ingest, you wouldn't want it to vomit it back up because it could cause much more damage coming back up the esophagus. And
Mhm.
potentially, as they're vomiting it back up, they could inhale it and aspirate it, and then you've got whatever that material was in the lungs as well. So there's so many different things to teach and for pet owners to understand and to learn, and it's just, gosh, it's so exciting. So exciting to educate and teach.
It is. It really is. I completely get that. And that's why I'm always like, oh my gosh. It's same thing where I always tell people, please don't take your cooked chicken bones, don't take your turkey bones and say, oh,
Yeah,
here, Fido, you can have it. It's going to splinter off. And as you even just, alluded when it came to chewing on the dog treat, a splintered bone is exactly this. It's a shank. And as it's going
exactly.
down, it
Exactly.
it's almost a silent killer in a sense.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
are
and
you? Yeah.
even if it doesn't like perforate the esophagus and the stomach and cause some fatal reaction, I mean, just think a shank in the top of your mouth. Oh
Hmm.
my gosh. That bleeds like a son of a gun. I tell you what, I've had to take a few of those out, and it's no just going in and pulling it out. You have
Hmm.
to sedate the animal, and they got a hole in the roof of their mouth, and it's just, I mean, it is no fun.
No,
You're absolutely right.
I mean, being as knowledgeable when it comes to the nutrition side and staying away from the dry kibble and staying with the raw feeding, people are like, well, what about the bone splintering? Well, I'm not cooking them. They're right there. They're the way that they would have been if the dog was in the wild. The same thing. Well, I don't understand. What's to understand? When you boil chicken, what do you think is going to happen to the integrity of the bone?
Right.
And that just completely baffles somebody. Like, I don't get it. Like, well, what do you do for treats? Well, I mean, a lot of times I'll just do chicken feet. Ew, why? Well, let's see. You got nail, you got bone, you've got the actual meat. Let's see. You want me to break this down on how much nutrition's in just a chicken foot, a chicken leg itself, the actual foot itself? I mean, I wouldn't eat it, but for a dog, that's just absolute wonderful for a dog. It's, you don't have to worry about all the chemicals in a lot of these, especially the big products that are out on these big pet food stores or even grocery stores. Those are the ones that freak me out too, because you read it and it's like, is this used for euthanasia or is this used for a snack? Because some of these chemicals, I mean, they scare me. And
Right.
it just keeps going on, or dyes and bleaches, and oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in dog treats that, I mean, just quite frankly should not be there. Let's just put it at that.
Right.
We'll just leave it there. We'll just leave it there.
Now, here's one of the things that I find to be a very interesting ingredient to toss into food, or more supplement the ingredient. But I'm very fascinated with CBD and just how it really affects the dog and brings them back, especially when they're older and they have, ailments and they're not young, obviously, so they don't move as quickly as they once do. but then they have CBD oil or they have hemp, and boy, it just gives them this little pop in their step. And always love to hear veterinarians' perspectives on this particular subject.
Well, you're not going to find my perspective super interesting, I don't believe. I think that, I'm very interested in the research that's ongoing right now, and I'm very interested in what my clients report to me, because I'm a talker, as you can probably tell in the exam room. I talk a lot, as much as I can, as much as time will allow, on like what they're doing, how their pets are doing. And I always find it intriguing, the ones that are using the CBD oils, and the different treats and things like that. And their response to the therapy. Sometimes I'm really shocked when the owners say, I've really noticed a difference since we've been feeding this. And, I take note of it and I think, that's good to know and good thing to try. I haven't personally had a lot of experience with prescribing it per se, because, I just haven't seen it's a new thing. It's a new idea. It's a new thing in the veterinary industry, at least, I guess. And the products, at first, when they first were coming out, it was my understanding that some of them were contaminated. My concern was, how do I know which vendor is a good one? How do I know who to say, oh yeah, try the CBD oil, and this is who to get it from? So for me, it was always a question of, where can I direct my clients to go get the stuff that I know it's not going to be harmful? I know it's going to be a good, pure product. So, I think that the research for me is still out, or the jury's still out on how I would prescribe it or which product I would actually prescribe. I do know that right now, I think it's Colorado State University, their vet school has one of the neurologists that's currently doing I think it's a study on seizures and maybe also osteoarthritis, like palliative type of therapy, using CBD oil and getting some really interesting results, and positive, good, interesting results. So I'm tracking it. I'm trying to see what all I can learn. And I think it's good. I think it's natural. I think it's good. I think if we can find a useful way to use things that are natural, I'm all about it. And I'm very excited about it as a practitioner. I'm not super well versed in how to prescribe it just yet. Does that make sense?
It does. And I say this because I was exactly in that same spot about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, when I started looking into this, going, is it really, I mean, how do you really recommend something like this? And what I've come to, and this is just in the experience, there are better companies than others. Some are just a little bit more, I guess you could say, watered down. It would be a good way of putting it. I've tried different ones. I've had a couple on the show. There are some that are just amazing, and the purity of the product is, I think, the standalone, because we're always concerned with how much chemicals are in everything, especially for all of us who are science driven. We're worried about, vaccinations. We're worried about the food. We're worried about everything that we're putting in our dogs and cats. But what I've noticed, and I have a 9-year-old, Akita, when she's off of the CBD, she doesn't walk well. She pretty much wants to just kind of lounge around. When she's on it, she'll jump on the bed. She's reduced back to about 4 years old, and she's back to what she used to be. And I'm one of those people that I will not promote anything unless I believe in it as well. It's one of those, if it works for my dog, or even the cats, I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to try this. I don't need anything except for the fact that everybody should try it. With CBD, when I first started my research on it, I was concerned, and I think a lot of people have that misconception, will my dog or cat have a high? No. What kind of chemicals are we looking at? Well, it's all natural. And that's a big thing. It takes away one thing, one element that I think anybody with science background worries about, and that is, you're not prescribing something that has any kind of chemical to it. This is a natural thing, but it's a natural thing that a dog or cat would typically not actually obtain on their own. So it is where humans are actually making a strive for science and improving. But I was exactly where you are, and I was skeptical. I wasn't sure about it at all. And once I did a lot of research on it and started applying it, I was like, wow, this really works. And I recommend it to anybody who comes in and they'll say my dog is, 10 years old, 9 years old, especially a large breed, doesn't move well anymore. Okay, well, how's their diet? Well, diet's normal. Okay. And of course, you always ask the same question, what are you feeding? That's my first question to everybody. But if they're actually on a good diet, it's just age and arthritis, it's like, okay, well, try a CBD oil, hemp. These different things, they really do work. It's just a matter of finding the right company, though. That's the trick.
Exactly. Someone that's going to deliver a consistent,
Uh-huh.
pure, product that's not contaminated, or that's going to, it's just hard. When I put my license on the line and prescribing something, and even if it's a over the counter, I mean, I'm still prescribing it if I'm making the recommendation for it. So I have to make sure that it's something that's quality, that I can stand behind, that I know is not going to, hurt the pet. And I do believe that the CBD oils and the new products that are coming out, I saw the other day some sort of cookies for dogs with CBD oil in them, and I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. I think that there's a long way to go with them, and I think that there's a lot of places where we can use them that perhaps, to help palliate pain. In addition to, of course, I'm heavy on my medication, so I love my regular drugs that I'm used to prescribing for things like arthritis. But I do think that adding in things like CBD oil, or in some cases in patients that can't tolerate those heavier medications, or the owners are just resistant to having those other chemicals in their dog's body, I think that it's a good option. It's definitely a good option for some clients, and I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to, is it's the ones who are like, I don't want to medicate. How do I avoid medicating? And that's really kind of what it came down for me as well, is how do I keep it natural? How do I keep my dog in all natural? So yeah, again, I've had the same reaction from a lot of different doctors, and we have the same thing. It's like there is no real right or wrong answer, especially when you're talking science. It's just a matter of how do we perceive it and how can we use it efficiently. Like, I don't believe you should be putting in CBD or any kind of hemp in puppies. I think that's a little bit risky. I don't really see what the purpose is. Seizures, I can definitely see where it would work. It would have a lot of benefits. But your older dogs, and especially dogs that are susceptible to hip dysplasia and arthritis and have, made it up to a pretty good age, you want to be able to give them the best quality of life. And how do you do that without over medicating? So that's always my thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. They can't tell us. Dogs can't tell us, hey, I'm hurting, I'm achy, I don't feel good in the mornings. And I think that if there's, anything that we can offer them that's going to be safe and going to help extend their quality of life for as long as we can, I mean, I don't see a reason not to do it, as long as it's, as long as it's safe for them.
Exactly. Yeah, you want to maintain it's at least as natural as possible, or if not all natural. Again, that bad 4-letter word, safe.
Yeah, exactly. We keep using that, huh?
We do keep using the bad word, and I just referenced it in my head. I'm going, we've been saying safe a lot. Which I actually mean, it really is all natural. But, again, be very cautious. I always tell people, please do the research on the companies. And if you have any questions, always ask them. Now,
because a lot of things, even if they're all natural, I mean, think about all the things that are toxic that are all natural. So one could argue that just because it's all natural doesn't mean that it's okay.
Very true. I mean, they would say artificial sweetener was all natural, and it's got aspartame and all kinds of things in it that are not good. So how is that even safe and all natural? Yeah, it's a billion things I could say on that.
Sure.
My favorite thing to ask is soapbox moment. It could be whether it's in practice, it could be in the middle of nutrition, it could be anything that's your soapbox moment that you're on. When I have different veterinarians that come on regularly, there's change, of course. So they're like, well, let me see what this week is. And I always find it to be funny. But I always love to know, what's the soapbox moment? What's that one thing that will just get you going and you just stand on the soapbox and preach it out?
Oh my gosh. I think I just did, didn't I?
What?
About safe toys and treats and not just believing what the marketing and advertising say. I mean, gosh, it's such a soapbox, I guess, for me that I started my own company because of it.
Good point. I always wondered. I always wonder if there's something else. If there's something that all of a sudden just pops in. I've had people say, you know what? After you asked me that question, a week later, I was still thinking about it, and I thought I had something else. So I always want to ask that question.
Well, if I think of something, I'll make sure to let you know.
Oh, perfect.
I would love an opportunity to get on my soapbox.
Well, I'm always on a soapbox. That's why I started this, I guess. So now here's the next thing. And I know we've talked about nutrition. We've talked about what dogs are going to ingest. And of course, I'm going to say pets with food allergies. How do you
Sure.
cope with that?
So, it's huge. I mean, and we are realizing more and more allergies, I think, daily. So food allergies, the way that we cope with that with VetPet Box is we ask our clients, whenever they fill out their dog's profile online. I don't know if you've seen the profile page where you can pick, does your dog have arthritis? Does it have anxiety? Does it have all of these things that we can help to formulate specific boxes per pet? So we do take a look at those and say, oh my gosh, I just came across a new product. I'm going to sub in, say that the monthly, topic is ear cleanser, but then there's this dog that's really having issues with anxiety, and I come across a really neat anxiety product. I might sub that out for them, or just include it extra and say, hey, look what I found for your pup. Try it out. Let me know what you think. So whenever we do have people come in and when they're signing up their pet, we have them fill out this profile. On that profile does your dog or cat suffer from food allergies? And if so, is it to grains? Is it to proteins, or is it potentially both, or I'm unsure, I don't know. And with that, when we package their boxes every month, we take that into account, obviously. And if it's a protein allergy, we try to definitely try and stay away from chicken and beef and things that are highly antigenic and very well known for being, one of the causes of allergies. So we try to go with more novel proteins, bison or kangaroo, things like that, or we just stay away from protein altogether and go with more veggie and fruit-based treats, just to kind of steer clear of it. And so we do cater to those guys. We also cater to the grain allergies. So we include treats that have no grains in them. Since we're still so small, we're able to do special requests. So sometimes people email us and say, you know what, I just would rather, my dog is on such a strict diet. I would rather just have no treats. Can you just throw in an extra toy or do something else with a wellness product for me? And sure, we absolutely. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to try and help guide people and teach people about different products. And so it doesn't mean I have to send you a toy and a treat every month. And so we do take into all those things into consideration. All it takes is an email.
And, I did look at the actual registration, and what I liked about it was it had one element that really stood out. It was as if I was going into the vet for the first time and listing everything about my dog or cat.
Yep.
Which I could see the difference, where it wasn't just name of pets, your name, your address, how many pets. It was a detail. This way, we're able to actually articulate everything and put it all together. Now, of course, I'm one of those, again, back to the whole nutrition side, where it's wheat, grain, it's down to different, poultry having an issue. I always thank the big pet food companies for really creating these unfortunate allergies.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your garbage that you put out there. And obviously the mutation, and the only word to be, had here is the mutation of pet food over the last few decades have created this. I mean, a dog could, easily eat pretty much anything off of the dinner table back in up until probably the 80s. And even if it had a bread, some kind of wheat, a bread, it didn't have allergy to it. You could have ate the chicken, no problem. But the inferior products, of course, have caused all of us so much problems. So thank you, Big Pet Food. And that's
Yeah,
my
that
rant.
and breeding. Don't forget, we can breed it into
Oh,
them too.
yes, that's
So
true. Oh,
don't forget the breeding. Yes,
yeah.
there's quite a few fingers we could point other than just the dog food. I mean, I would definitely point at foods, some in particular more than others,
Yeah.
but there's a few fingers I could point, at, the animals themselves and how we've, chose to breed and raise them and some of the designer breeds and some of the inbreeding that's been going on. And, as you know, we can sell pets across the country these days now. And so it's just kind of spreading everywhere.
Yes, that is
So,
true. You know what?
a lot of things.
I'll give you that one. You are completely accurate. I mean, here, dog A and dog B would never have been able to meet in the wild, but with science, they have now.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I give you that one. That does drive me nuts. There's another soapbox moment for another time. So now let's just say, little Lucy gets a puppy. And of course, people are, the pet parents are like, well, we want to do something great for both of them. And we want to have, their own VetPet box for them so that they can share that. Lucy gets her, this little package in the mail for her dog, and then they get to share it. So do you actually work with puppies, kittens, and work the ages, and that way you're able to kind of formulate each box, or is it just dog, cat?
It is. So we do have a puppy and kitty box. And so say little Lucy gets her puppy and the puppy is less than 6 months is what we just had to pick an age. And I think 6 months is pretty relevant age. So, if the puppy is less than 6 months, then we ask them to select that on the chart whenever they're filling out their chart. And then we will send the very first box will be a puppy box rather than the monthly box. So that they will get all of the puppy type items. So a toothbrush kit so they can start brushing the puppy's teeth. They'll get behavioral type training tools so that they can start some behavior training. They'll get our exclusive puppy book, the same one that goes into veterinary clinics, for clients there at vet clinics. So we'll send that so they can learn. I mean, it's just a very detailed, but fun to read, easy to read book, kind of like the whole theme of VetPet Box. Easy to read, easy to understand book all about taking care of puppies, but from a veterinarian's perspective. So why is it that we want prevention, monthly parasite prevention? Why do we recommend vaccines? Which ones do we recommend for what? And so we go into detail on those type of things to kind of help owners understand from a veterinarian and science perspective. So the first box would be the puppy box, and then from there, her puppy would roll into the monthly rotation of other wellness topics. And the puppy and kitty boxes, those are actually sold, those specific boxes are the same exact ones that are sold to veterinarians. We do have another sales channel where we sell those in case packs to vets. So that, a lot of them give these away with their first puppy visit, or they sell them at their hospitals. And so that's the very first one that Lucy would get for her puppy if she were to decide to sign a puppy up for VetPet Box. Same with kitties.
I don't know how Lucy came out. I mean, my daughter's not even named Lucy. Lucy was the name.
I like it.
I was like, I'm gonna throw this out there. All right. Now, of course, I have big dogs, and so that, of course, a lot of people do. I mean, obviously,
Yep.
with millions and millions of dogs in just the U.S., they're not all small teacup poodles. But I look at my now almost year-old Akita, and even when he was a puppy, he was still a big boy. You know, what changes for those pet parents?
So what changes with each box is toys and treats that are relevant to the size of the pet. So obviously I think any toy can be dangerous. Even the most safe toy. There's our word again. Even appropriate toy, a good quality. There we go. Good quality toy.
Good quality, high quality.
There we go. Even a high quality toy, if it's the wrong size, it's still inappropriate. It can still cause damage and problems. So we try very hard to we order in samples of everything before we decide to include it in a box. Obviously, we order it in for testing and quality assurance type reasons and testing with our market here. And we also test the size. So I can't tell you how many times I'll get a bone in that's, So like the nylon bones, they come in all these different sizes, right? From small or petite all the way up to large. And I'll get a large and I'll think, this is a medium size. This is not appropriate for a large breed dog. So I usually write them back. I write back the manufacturer and I suggest a change to their packaging for one, because I feel like they deserve that. Say, I don't think you guys need to think about the sizing with this. And then we'll usually go with another distributor, or we'll find different products. So we always make sure that our dogs are receiving appropriately sized toys. And we broke it down into 5 different categories. It would have been a lot easier if we said small, medium, large, but we did petite. Yeah, right. We did petite, small, medium, large, and giant. So 0 to 15 pounds is our petite, 15 to 30 is our small, 30 to 50 is our large, and then, got me all confused now. 0 to 15 is our petite, 15 to 30 is our small, 30 to 50 is our medium, 50 to 100 is our large, and 100 plus is our giant breed. And so we take a lot painstaking research and testing to try and make sure that everything that we send is appropriate for the mouth size of the dog. And then for treats and for other items like chews and stuff like that, for our giant dogs, we obviously will send more than one bag or more than one of the treats, because one chomp isn't nearly as fun as, a whole, couple days worth of chewing, or a whole bag of treats is for a little teeny tiny thing. So we try to take into consideration that as well. And we are a little bit different, I think, than some of the other boxes, in that we do charge a little bit different for our boxes. But I think that that's appropriate whenever we're putting together these boxes. A smaller toy is going to cost me less than a larger toy is going to cost me. And so I kind of give that back to the customer and say, well, I paid less for these smaller toys, so you pay less for this box. Whereas big old giant dog or large breed dog, the toys are a little bit more expensive for me. And so I have to charge a little bit more for those boxes. And so that's just, I guess, the differences between the small and large is the amount of things, or the size of the products in there. And we just try to make it as appropriate as we can for each pet.
Well, you would pay that upcharge if you were actually buying a big toy or a small toy.
Sure.
You can go to any pet store. I mean, that's the logic that I would almost imagine that would be the one thing people would be like, oh, I get that.
You'd be surprised.
I want it to be nice, okay?
Yeah, we could do a whole show on that.
Oh, I believe we could. I believe it would be a 3-part series.
It could be.
Yeah, no, actually probably 4, because you got the petite, you got the small, the medium,
right?
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, the other part to this that, a lot on people would probably, they love to look over and kind of sweep under the rug. Me, I'm more or less burying the lead on this whole thing. And that is the fact that you actually give back.
Yes.
And that's the one element that I've noticed in any kind of show, it seems like. They tend to just bury it. And I don't understand why. That is a massive, massive accomplishment. So you do your military, your police, and fire, they get their discount. They get a 25%.
Yep.
For seniors, you have a discount. I mean,
Yep.
that was a unique one to me. That one kind of tossed, I was like, wow, okay, that's a pretty cool thing to actually go, okay, for seniors, we're going to give a discount. For therapy assistants and public service pups, there's a discount. And then for customers with multiple active dogs, you have a discount. I mean, I was like, that's cool. I mean, you're saying, hey, we appreciate you, and this is how our way of being able to say, hey, we appreciate you. And then, of course, and again, I'm burying this part, and that is a portion of the profits will be donated to a nonprofit that you guys choose. I mean, and of course, it has to do with any kind of nonprofit that helps pets and people. I think that those are things that, honestly, they're overlooked, and they shouldn't be. They should be commended.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we feel like, it's important to be able to give back, and community is huge for us, and we understand how much these dogs and cats do for people. And I mean, I especially, I really love the senior discount. That's probably one of my favorite things that we've been able to do with the company because it's so important for, I think, older people. Or, there's been so many studies, and I think there's a really good study linked on our website, on our education portal, about how there's a study done that actually showed the health benefits of owning a pet on an older person. Lowers the blood pressure, less the chance of heart disease. It gives them a sense of accomplishment, a sense of being, and a sense of getting up to do something, to have a companion to care for every day. It's so important. And a lot of these people are on fixed incomes. And so for us to be able to help them care for their little fur baby a little bit better, that's huge to me. And if it wasn't for my business partners, I'd probably be giving stuff away to these older people, but then I'd be out of business real quick. But, it's just real important. And at the heart of the business is caring and wanting to help people. And that's what we do. And we're veteran owned. My husband is actually a veteran. So of course we have to get back to our military, and I know how incredibly important military and servicemen and their pets are. And so just really, really, really important to us. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Then, like I said, a lot of people would bury this, and I say this is the one thing I want to put out there in front. Of course, I like to always, I bury it a little bit into the conversation, because then people get to know you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they look at that, any kind of discount and things. Whenever it's talked about, it's almost kind of dilutes everything if you don't know what the person's all about. And I always think that everything has a placement for it. And that's where I was like, you're right. Especially, that's why I said when I saw the senior discount, I was like, that is the biggest of all, because you nailed it on the head. Just that sense of purpose. I mean, can you just imagine when you retire, being as busy as you are right now, and you retire, you're going to go from, this 0 to 60 in 2 seconds to I just kind of idle every day.
Yeah.
If you're all alone, and a lot of seniors, they are, their spouse has passed away, or for whatever reason, the kids have all grown up. What purpose is there except for watching TV, eating? There needs to be more, some kind of stimulate for them to actually enjoy. And a dog, a cat, so important. I mean,
It's incredibly important to them, to their health. And some of my favorite customers are the ones that we have several good long-term customers that have purchased these subscription for their, mother-in-law or their parents. And we get feedback sometimes that, oh, my mother-in-law just can't wait to get her next little blue box. She doesn't even know it's called a VetPet Box, but she can't wait for the little blue box to come in the mail. And she just waits for it every month. And as I'm thinking about, my product, getting to her front door, it just makes me smile. It makes me happy thinking, oh, I'm going to brighten her. Of course I'm going to help her pet and stimulate the, environment and help them have a new toy. Maybe it's hard for, her to get out to the store and get new toys or know what to get. So I'm helping provide something for the pet. But then to think of the smile on that older person's face as they're unpackaging the box, it's like a gift I get to give them every month. Makes me very happy.
exactly. And some knowledge that goes with it.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's such a key right there. I mean, you're stimulating the brain right there.
Yeah.
I know, looking forward to seeing any kind of box show up. I've always been that type of person. So that alone, you're like, it's here moment. But then I get to open it. And it is Christmas 12 months out of the year. So it is a great thing to have. Now, I will say this. I've had a great record so far where everybody who's come on and their business is brand new, within the next year, all of a sudden they end up becoming really massive. And that's one of the best things that I'm always so happy, and it excites me. And I can pretty much, I can easily go out there and say it's 2018. By 2019, yeah, she's going to be way up there, probably even talking like some different veterinarians about, I may have to reduce my time in practice or at least suspend it.
Oh, no, I hope that never happens. But maybe.
They've done it on purpose. They're like, you know what? I'm not having enough time for this business, so I'm going to take a step away. And so I definitely look forward to watching all the progress and the success that's obviously going to come your way.
Oh, I hope so. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you. What have we not covered? Because I know we've covered a lot. We know that the 4-letter word of the day is safe. And I'm going to take that with me probably for days now going,
Me
safe.
too. Me too. Don't worry, I will too. Me too.
Here's where our day is going to be. We're both going to be working with dogs. Mine's going to be washing them. Yours is going to be treating them. And all of a sudden, we're just going to use the word safe out of nowhere probably. And people are going to look at us oddly and it'd be like inside joke. Yeah.
Inside joke for sure.
But what have we not covered? Is there anything we haven't covered?
Oh gosh. I don't know. We've covered quite a bit. A lot of good stuff.
It's typically what I aim for, but there's always something I might have overlooked, and I always want to make sure we cover it all because, just because it's the end of this episode does not mean it's the end of the conversation. You're always welcome back.
Oh,
And
I love that.
anything you want to talk about, I mean, as you can see with, the library, a lot of people come back and it's like, okay, so you don't have to worry if we did forget something, we'll probably pick it up in another episode, but I want to make sure just in case.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank
Cool.
you so much.
Oh, no problem. Well, tell everybody how they can actually go to your website and if they have any questions.
All right, perfect. So if you want to go to the website, go to www.vetpetbox.com. And if you have any questions, you can just email us at support@vetpetbox.com or info@vetpetbox.com. And we'd be happy to answer any questions or anything you might have. So yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dr. M, everybody, for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Well, I'm Chris Green. Have a pet-tastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, guys.